Hi, I'm Sarah Gross with YourMarketingProfessor.com, and today we're going to be talking about how has marketing changed over time. To answer this question, we're going to be looking at the marketing eras. The first era is the simple trade era. The time period here is the Industrial Revolution, pre-Industrial Revolution. The focus was on specializing in selling your surplus items, so you didn't have to produce everything in order to survive. You started producing more of certain items in order to sell or barter the surplus to get other items that you needed. The next era is the production era. The time period here is the Industrial Revolution to the 1930s. Make note that the IR stands for Industrial Revolution. The focus here is if we make it, they will buy it. Some of you might remember a movie many years ago called Field of Dreams, and I like to think about the production era as basically the field of dreams for manufacturers, because if they made something of halfway decent quality, it was most likely going to sell. So warehouses were empty, and they were really focused on cranking out more of the items that they were producing. The next era is the sales era. And the time period here was about the 1930s to roughly about the 1950 mark. Here is when demand, in the production era, demand was outweighing supply. So that's why there was no inventory. In the sales era, it flip-flopped for the first time. There was a lot more competition. Technology was increasing. More competitors were entering the marketplace. So for the first time, you started seeing indications that supply was outweighing demand. And what does this mean? Well, it means that inventory was starting to build up for the first time. So manufacturers were starting to scratch their heads a little bit and going, well, crap, you know what? We can't just keep producing and seeing it fly off our shelves. We actually have to do something to make the sale. So they started trying to convince customers to buy through sales and advertising. So we have this nice little sales guy up here going, ta-da, buy from us. Now, it's important to note that we, in this period, didn't analyze what customers wanted and then reallocate our strategy accordingly. We were still producing what it is we had been producing, or what was easiest, or what we knew how to produce, and then convince after the fact, hey, buy from us other than a competitor. So that's an important caveat there. The next era is the marketing department era, and it was time period is generally allocated to the 1950s. The big idea here is that this is the first time companies started talking about and internalizing this notion that the customer is king. And I think if you would ask most kindergartners, or tell them, hey, do you think companies should really be focused on analyzing and addressing customer needs? And I think most kindergartners would be like, yeah. Well, it's kind of funny to think about that simple concept really didn't come to the forefront until the 1950s. Secondarily, two other characteristics of this time period was that short-term planning was coming to the forefront, and this is the first time all the marketing functions were starting to be brought under one official department. The last of the marketing eras is oftentimes called the marketing company era, and the time period was the 1960s to present time. And the focus is on that the whole company should work together to satisfy the customer needs. At a profit should be thrown on there, and that this is linked to a concept that we'll be addressing in a future video called the marketing concept. But the other thing that's really important to note, that in this present day period, that the long-term relationships is really, really important. It's not just getting a customer in the short term or for one sale. It's not satisfying a customer need just now. It's also looking at what do we need to do to retain and satisfy that customer for the long term. So many marketers, gurus, textbooks, authors oftentimes might label this current era as the relationship era, and rightfully so. That concludes our lesson on how marketing has changed over time. For more information, you can watch the next lesson and/or visit YourMarketingProfessor.com. I'm Sarah Gross. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.